A bustling department store in one of the largest cities in the world. 1,500 people are crowded inside. Suddenly, a huge wave erupts from the top floor. In less than 20 seconds, the entire crashes to the ground. And all that remains is a massive pile of twisted steel and concrete. More than 500 people are dead.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel here. It's me here, Lavender here, and today I'm back with another pure evil topic. Today we're going to be doing the anti-capitalism, true crime, pure evil files video of the pure evil, the Sampoong Korea department store capitalism caused collapse disaster. Deep dive into this topic, capitalism, true crime, profits over lives, etc. My other YouTube videos related to this topic will be linked down below in the description down below for more if you'd like to check them out, as well as also on the screen if you'd like to check them out. So let's get started into this YouTube video. This true crime case has been featured in a number of TV and media such as Blueprint for Disaster, the Sampoong Collapse that came out in 2004, and Seconds from Disaster on National Geographic, Sampoong Department Store Collapse that came out in 2006. In the events leading up to the 1988 Summer Olympics, there was a large development boom in the Seoul capital area because of the bans against international construction contractors signing contracts for projects in Seoul, Korea at the time. Almost all the buildings were being erected by South Korean companies, which typically built the structures quickly because of the large number of projects assigned to them. The quality of skyscrapers, the work was questionable, and it eventually came out that a lot of these buildings were not properly designed and, they're faulty. The Sampoong Group began construction on the Sampoong Department Store in 1987. Cracks began to appear in the ceiling of the fifth floor on the south wing that had been used as a landfill. By Joon and his management staff called for a residential apartment building and only 4 from the top floor to the basement area by the construction. On the morning of June 29th, the number of cracks in the area increased dramatically by the future chairman, managers to close parts of the top floor construction division. The store management failed to shut the building down to instead create a large department evacuation orders like a mall, as the number of customers cutting away a number of support beam columns to install high was unusually high. The addition of a management did not want to lose it was that day's roller skating ring, but later changed to a food court. Civil engineering heavy tables in it were invited to inspect the structure, refused to carry out these changes due to serious structural revealed that the building was at risk of collapsing at any time. The facility manager examined the slab and wanted to use his own company to only hours before the construction. Instead, putting profits over lives as usual under capitalism, the loud bangs was heard. The building was completed in late 1989, of the air conditioning units caused the public on July 7, 1990, attracting an estimated 40,000 people per day. The air conditioning was turned off, but the operation had already grown, and the store consisted of north and south turning point. There was no going back. Around then, it was realized that the collapse was a flat slab structure without cross beams and an emergency board meeting was held, which effectively met. There was no way to transfer the heavy load across the floors from the building. To maximize Joon angrily refused to do so and feared losing capitalism profits. However, to be reduced and other capitalist pigs left the building safely before the building 4 inches thick instead of he did not inform his own daughter-in-law 31 inches thick, who was one of the original building of an imminent danger. She became trapped in the rubble and was rescued only days later. Space 11 he left all the customers and all the victims of capitalism retail space to deal with this fucking, a decision that meant there was more load on each column than there would be if the column had been closer together. As the fifth floor ceiling began restaurant store workers finally closed off all customer access referred to as an ondol. The store was packed with hundreds of shoppers going 7 minutes before the presence of these 1.2 did not close the store. Auto carry out repairs during that time increased the weight when the store started to produce cracking noises at about 5:52 p.m. Air conditioning units were installed on the roof, evacuate the building, leading to a greater structural strain on the building. The air conditioning units was also exceedingly loud and led to noise complaints by customers who gave away and causing it to crash further down to lower floors. The air conditioning units were dragged across the roof instead of being picked up, resulting in cracking and fractures to the roof structure. The units were moved over column 5E, where the most visible cracks in the 5th floor were seen before the collapse. The cracks in the columns worsened because the columns supporting the 5th floor were not aligned with the ones supporting the lower floors, thus causing the load of the 5th floor to be transferred through the slab. The government gave Kang In-hee a jawbone, which was all they could find of her daughter. The 19-year-old was one of 501 people killed in this capitalism-caused preventable tragedy. The bodies of 31 victims were never found in the rubble, and relatives who received only a bone or nothing at all have been living in small tents in deserted store parking lot ever since. After nearly a week, the focus was on removing the debris, but construction crews worked carefully to check for additional victims who could be trapped. 2 weeks after the collapse, city officials concluded that anyone who's still in the building must have already died and passed away. Therefore, any further efforts to find victims would only be made towards recovery efforts and not rescue efforts, despite the possibility of victims still being able to survive for much longer. Despite the sweltering heat, some who were not rescued in the first few days avoided dehydration by drinking rainwater. The last to be rescued was a 19-year-old store clerk, Park Sung-hung, was pulled from the wreckage 17 days after the collapse with a few scratches, and along with the 18-year-old Jo Jae-hwan was pulled after nearly 12 days of being entrapped in the rubble. And a man rescued after 9 days reported that other trapped survivors had drowned from the rain and from the water used for fire suppression. Kim, 41, lost his wife, a Sampoong clerk. Her body was never found. He flipped through a book on his desk containing the photos of 144 bone and bone fragments that have yet to be identified through DNA testing. He said even if the government forensic scientist told him one of those bones belonged to his wife, he would still be doubtful, and said it wouldn't lessen his loss. Once the investigation focused on the capitalism-caused structural failure, putting profits over lives, investigators finally pinpointed the direct cause of the collapse, also known as the trigger, or the tipping point, in the building's history. It was revealed that 2 years before the collapse, the building's 3 rooftop air conditioner units had been moved because of noise complaints from the neighbors on the east side of the building. The building's managers admitted noise and cracks on the roof during the move, but instead of lifting them with a crane, the units were put on rollers and dragged across the roof, further, destroying the roof because the immense weight and cracking and fracturing the fuck out of the roof. Cracks formed in the roof slabs and the main support columns were forced downward. Column 5E took a direct hit, forming cracks at the position connected to the 5th floor restaurants. According to survivor accounts, each time air conditioners were switched on, the vibrations radiated through the cracks, reaching and supporting columns and widening the cracks. Over the course of 2 years, on the day of the tragedy, although the units were shut off, it was too little too late. The structure had suffered irreversible damage, and the 5th floor slab around column 5E finally gave way. During his interrogation, Joon sparked further controversy and backlash, saying that his main concern was the collapse of the store not only harmed the customers, but also inflicted a great deal of financial damage to his capitalism company. On December 27, 1995, Joon was found guilty of criminal negligence and received a prison sentence of 10.5 years. Joon's son and the store's CEO, Lee Hung-sung, received 7 years for homicide and corruption. City officials Lee Chung-woo, who was chief administrator of the area where the store was located, was sentenced to 3 years in jail for bribery. Hwang Chung-min, a former chief for the area, was found guilty of accepting a $12 million bribe from Joon and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Other parties sentenced included a number of the store's executives and the company responsible for completing the building. The initial reaction of the disaster was an enormous public outrage that led to months of public demonstrating and protests on the streets of Seoul, South Korea. The disaster led to skepticism and fears regarding safety standards on other engineering projects and buildings undertaken as South Korea had experienced an economic boom during the 1980s, and it resulted in a review of South Korean safety regulations. The disaster also revealed the level of corruption and greed among city city officials and poorly made skyscraper buildings being built, who are willing to accept bribes with little regard for public safety because capitalism puts profits over lives.